Hello, my name is Bascom Murrah III. I was born September the 27th, 1937. My dad was a junior and I never knew my grandpa, but my great-grandpa was Ebenezer Murrah. I was born in a Brunswick Hospital. Dr. Greer, who delivered just about everybody that lived in Glenn County. Big thing about my birth was I was a C-section. My two sisters were natural birth, and the doctor cut my foot and it was bleeding when got me out of my mother's womb. But we moved to St. Simon's, which was really a beautiful island, big oak trees, hanging moss, very laid back. We moved on a street called Railroad Avenue, but now it's Beachview Drive. And we'd go under the house, and I don't know if you know what a doodlebug is, but it's a little bug that burrows in the sand. And we'd go say, "Doodlebug, doodlebug, your house is on fire." And they'd crawl out. We'd have easy, we weren't hard to entertain. And the house I lived in until 1943 was, is still there, but they moved it a block away to the west from the water. And it's neat to drive by that house. During the war, when we were still on Railroad Avenue, they set anti-aircraft guns on the beach with soldiers and sandbags all the way around them so the water couldn't get to the guns. And there were German subs actually off in the water off St. Simon's. And they torpedoed two freighters out there, and a bunch of local people and the Coast Guard got in their boat and went out there and saved who was still alive. But we had to cover the windows facing the ocean in our house, and you had to paint the top half of your car lights black so the Germans couldn't see you. There was no elementary school, but there was a big place, building called Camp Marion, just north of downtown St. Simons, and they use that from September to June as a elementary school, first 3 grades. I don't remember much about it. I do remember that when I was in the 1st grade, my teacher was Miss McCullough, and she said, "We're gonna sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm." So we all got out of the chair and stood up, and I was maybe 3 feet in front of her, and we started singing, and I had the wee-wee. I was trying to get her attention, and she was moving her arm, you know, saying, keeping us all singing together. And when we got through singing, there was a big old puddle right under me. And she said, "What happened?" And of course I was embarrassed, and everybody's laughing at me. And I still get kidded about that from the people that I went to school with from 1st grade through high school. One thing I'd like to bring up, you go to school when you're 6 years old. I was 5 years old. And my whole 1st grade through the 12th grade, everybody was a year older than me. There's a big difference. And I was very shy, and I didn't like school that much. It wasn't that hard. They graded you, they'd give you an S for satisfactory in elementary school in all the subjects. And you had one teacher teaching everything. And an N, needs improvement. And that'd be on your report card. Well, I had N's in phonics. I couldn't pronounce words. I had trouble doing that, and I still have trouble doing that. Somewhere in my brain it's not working too well. I started 3rd grade in St. Simons Elementary, in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Junior high school was called Prep High. It was across the street from Glen Academy, which was a high school. And they still have what they call a middle school from the 6th grade. And I think you start high school in the 10th grade now, not the 9th grade. I don't know why. But we did have to ride a school bus to get to school. It was in Brunswick. There were 5 wooden bridges going across 4 rivers and a creek to get to Brunswick. And the policeman would have to stop traffic so the bus could be the only one on the blum, 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 going over the wood bridges. And we rode the bus, and always coming home, somebody would start cutting up, and the bus driver would pump the brakes, and that means you better quit what you're doing. And if you didn't, he'd stop and said, "Unload." And about 4 or 5 guys would get off the bus and hitchhike home on the causeway. I never got kicked off the bus. I did miss the bus one day. We had 2 buses, and when I was in high school, and I tried to get on the other bus and said, "You can't ride on my bus." And so I had to hitchhike to school that day. I had a grandmother that lived about a 1/4 mile away, and my first cousin, Walter Bird, we got together all the time, and there was another guy across the street from Walter, and we just kind of gathered and stole watermelons. Trucks used to drive in here with peaches and watermelons and all that stuff. And we did that a couple of times, and we didn't do it long. But while I was in high school, I was a Boy Scout. My dad was Scoutmaster. He was a great Scoutmaster. He got an award called the Silver Beaver, which is an outstanding Scoutmaster. And we were Troop 20. Troop 20 was something else. And there's a place out in New Mexico called Philmont Scout Ranch. Well, guess who got to go to Philmont Scout Ranch? The Scoutmaster's son and one other guy. And the American Legion, they bought us a school bus, painted red, painted Boy Scouts of America, Troop 20 on it. And boy, we were hot shots, you know. My dad was smart. He could fix anything, electrical, mechanical, and probably because if he didn't do it, it wasn't getting done because he couldn't afford it, you know. My mom was just a good mom. She's a mom. The only problem I had with them was just smoking. I didn't even want to kiss my mom because you could smell the smoke in her clothes. It just, I hate smoking to this day. I never smoked. That's probably a good thing. It taught me not to smoke. I drink a little bit, but I never smoked. Dad, he drank. He had a problem drinking, and he got. Back then, if you were an alcoholic, two kinfolks could sign a piece of paper, and they sent you to a mental institution. And he came back, and he didn't drink hard liquor, but he would drink a beer every once in a while. But he lived to be my age. He lived to be 85. But I met Barbara on St. Simon's. Every summer, they'd move from Atlanta to a house on the beach on St. Simon's. She was at a high school in Atlanta. It had a great football team, and me and another guy would go watch that team. And she was a cheerleader, and she was dating my best friend. And he was complaining about, hey, I'm going out with this rich girl, and I don't know what to do. And he said, she keeps telling me she wants to date me. And I said, I don't want to date her. One day, I saw him and her. I was driving my dad's car, and I was going somewhere, and I said, y'all want to ride? And she got in the front seat next to me. And I don't even remember our first date. I don't know if we went to a movie or went and parked and watched the grass grow and, you know, that kind of stuff. And we started dating, and, you know, she was real nice. She was just genuine, and she was good looking and a lot of fun to be around. So here's another story. She had been dating a football player on the north side team, and he went bananas because she quit. The coach got after her, and they actually didn't re-elect her as a cheerleader. They made her the mascot. She had to wear a tiger head or something, you know. So she, you know, I really hurt her career. But I dated her, and I was winning the fraternity, and every weekend we'd have dance parties and drinking and all, and she didn't drink ever. And I'd take her to these hotshot bars where they played music and all and dance with her. I don't know how she put up with that. I learned how to fly. I worked out at the airport gassing airplanes for this guy. And there was a George Aycock who flew in the Second World War, was an instructor. And he started giving me lessons free. After Barbara and I got married, on Sundays we'd always go for a drive. And I'd say, where y'all want to go? They knew every time Sunday that we were going to the airport, you know. And they never complained about it. Barbara's dad was a pilot. And when I got good with him, he would take me flying and give me some lessons. That was before I actually got my private license. And he'd let me fly around, and then when we land, he'd tell me about 10 things I did wrong. He wouldn't correct you while you were flying. One day I said, Barbara, you want to learn how to fly? And she said, yeah. Can you take me up and show me how? And I said, sure, come on. And I went out to the airport, and we rented an airplane and took off. And we got about 20 feet off the ground. And I said, put your nose down. And she said, what? And I said, put the nose down. Put the nose down. Put the damn nose down. She said, take me back. That was my flying lesson with Barbara. And that's terrible. She wasn't gonna put up with that. My freshman year was just like my senior year in high school. But once I got into calculus, which was a class 5 days a week, and physics, which is a class 5 days a week, where most of your college classes are 3 days a week. And I didn't know how to study. I don't like studying. I still don't. And my grades just started getting bad. After I joined the fraternity, I really got bad. I'd get out of class and go to the fraternity house. I enjoyed college too much. And it's a shame I didn't do better. You had to have a C average to graduate. And I actually made the dean's roll of 1 quarter. The winter quarter, we were on a quarter system, not a semester system. And the legislature met up in Atlanta in the Capitol building. And one of my fraternity brothers was from the same hometown as the governor. And he said, well, come up to the legislature and I'll see if we can get you a job. And I went up there, and this lady, she ran the clerk's office. And the clerk's office had about 8 good-looking women in there typing up the bills, you know, for the legislature to read and vote on. And they had a big old machine they call a collating machine. And if the bill had more than 1 page, you know, you had to collate it. I ran that machine. They taught me how to run that machine, and it helped a lot because the bills got ready for them to look at quicker. And you're gonna work 6 days and get paid for 7. And that was $105 a week. That's a lot of money back in 1958.
Boy, look at that. Neat. Yeah, but look at this airplane. That's what I'd like to make. But you can't work for NASA if you're going to build airplanes. Well, they do other things, too. Like what? Do you work for NASA?
I was in charge of the lunar module. 1968.
10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Which was a year before we landed on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It has a stark beauty.
Found out that the Kennedy Space Center was hiring engineers, and I went down there and interviewed, and they offered me a job. And I got a great job down there, what they call a systems engineer in spacecraft operations. I loved the work. It was fun, but I was new, and I wasn't in the program when everything was getting designed, so I wasn't real smart about what the hardware was or how it worked and all. But I did okay. When you work for the government, you're on a GS scale. I was started as a GS7, and you can go up to a GS13 in engineering. If you wanted to get any higher, you had to go into management. And they had an opening while they were building the shuttle.
The program usually presented at this time will not be seen today, so that we may bring you the following special program.
They took off 30 minutes ago, a 747 airplane, and clamped onto its back America's first space shuttle, the Enterprise.
Me and another engineer in our office volunteered to go out there, and that's near Edwards Air Force Base.
Edwards, cleared for takeoff.
We stayed out there for a year and a half. Took the whole family out there, and when we were coming into Lancaster, which is right next to Edwards Air Force Base, it was all desert, and and my wife looked over there and she just started crying. She didn't like it. She said, what is this? When that was over, I came back. I was on what they call TDY, temporary duty. And we came back to Titusville, Florida, which is just west of the Kennedy Space Center.
And a concurrence from the launch director to proceed.
They had 4 flow directors for each orbiter, and I was Columbia's flow director, and that was a great job. We would meet at 9 o'clock every morning and go over what we scheduled to the 15-minute time thing, every job. And it was a tough job, and you had to know who you could trust and who wasn't just giving you a bunch of BS about doing something, because the engineers would want to do it, When I was a systems engineer, I was outside watching it because my job was done, and we have what we call the Launch Control Center. I was in the firing room when we launched, but I was looking at my system, which was the auxiliary power unit.
CLS is go for orbiter APU start.
TLT OTC, perform APU start.
I was there during Challenger.
After a weekend at Camp David, President Reagan was back campaigning today. The highlight of that trip, however, was an announcement that the first citizen passenger aboard the space shuttle will be a teacher.
It's long been a goal of our space shuttle, the program to someday carry citizen passengers into space. Today, I'm directing NASA to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program, one of America's finest, a teacher.
We have what we call a L-1, launch -1 day, get together in a big room.
And then we have Commander Dick Scobie sitting beside pilot Mike Smith.
First off, we weren't in the same room with them normally.
Judy Resnick on the left, mission specialist, along with Ron McNair, and payload specialist Greg Jarvis.
Because they didn't want to give them a cold or catch the measles or whatever. But this time, the phone system was busted. So they came to our big conference room, and each system had to tell the astronauts if there was any delta from normal.
CNC performing a launch status check at this time. All systems verify ready, resume count, and go for launch.
Houston flight is go.
Pilot go.
You
SPM.
keep a record of everything you do. You have a logbook. And after we went through our spiel to tell them what was going on, when Krista McCauley, and she was walking about a foot off the floor. She was so happy and smiling and excited. I walked up to her and said, do you have time to sign my logbook? And she said, sure. And she put down to Bascom, reach for the stars. The only person I ever talked to the day before launch, astronaut. And you know what happened. That day before Challenger, you know, the temperatures were in the 30s.
CSC performing a launch status check at this time.
Weather at this time looks good, and the temperature at the launch pad right now is 24 degrees.
Throughout the morning, engineers expressed concern because the shuttles had never launched in such extreme conditions.
It was icicles all over the pad.
However, at 11:38 a.m., Challenger was cleared for launch.
CSC performing a launch status check at this time. All systems verify radar rhythm count and go for launch. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff confirmed. Liftoff. Challenger, roll program. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll, flight. Roger, good roll. 3 at 65. 65, Fido. TDL confirms throttle. Thank you. Challenger, go with throttle up. Roger, go with throttle up. Fido trajectory. Go ahead. Flight GC, we've had negative contact, lost downlink. Okay, all operators, watch your data carefully. Flight Fido, go ahead. RSO reports vehicle exploded. Okay, everybody, stay off the telephones. Make sure you maintain all your data. Start pulling it together.
That's the worst day of my life, and I still think about it. Well, we got 10 horses. One of them's blind. We got 3 donkeys. We got a 3-legged goat. That goat gets around real good. And we got some small goats, which are cute. We've had as many as 20 cats, but I think we're down to about 12. She found some horses that were being abused, and she just went over there and told the people, I'm taking these horses. She took them. And they were glad to get rid of them. We had a couple cases of that. And we get phone calls still from people wanting us to take horses. We have a couple get-togethers, a fall festival and a spring festival, and raise the money. And I pick up the mail, and we get contributions from people who don't even live here. And Natalie and Patrick and Lee want to keep it when I die. Keep it in the Murrah name and just keep passing it on down. Farm's just been a good glue for the family. There's a lot of things I wish I could have done better. I took her for granted, I guess, you know, and that hurts me. And she was very sweet, did a super job with the kids. They all hated me and loved her. Because I'm not a hypocrite, but when somebody does something I don't like, I let them know it, you know, and my kids kids are kids. And you got to set a good example. And they aren't around you as much once they start school as there are other people. You got to be careful what they do and keep up with them and act interested. And actually, I feel I did that after Barbara died, not before. I loved them, but you just, I don't know, you get all wrapped up in yourself a little bit. I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but it takes time for you to be smart enough to realize it. I was just doing what I wanted to, when I wanted to, and not worrying about the results, And to me, that's selfish. She went back to nursing school and she became a nurse, and she was in her 40s. They put her on first shift in critical care unit, and that's pretty important. You go there, you're in trouble because you're really sick. I run into people every day that tell me how sweet she was. And she was that kind of person. I'll be in the grocery store and somebody will say, I sure miss Barbara, God was good. That's the best thing God ever did for me. I've got 4 great children, and maybe 20% of that is because of me, and 99%, which is over 100, is because of her. And I can't forgive myself for not being more open to her. And even when she was in the hospital with a disease they couldn't cure, I stayed in their room with her for 6 weeks. But I just said, well, they're gonna get her in remission and we'll go home. I never thought I was gonna lose her. And I didn't tell her I loved her every day either there. That's dumb, You need to support her. But she was strong and she hung in there. I just took it for granted Barbara knew I loved her. That's why I say if I had to do it over, I'd tell her every night before we go to bed, I love you. I'd like to do some things over, yeah. I did enough to get by. I was, I guess, semi-successful in NASA. I was high up in the ranking and loving my job. I like going to work. The regret I have is I could have done a lot more. In high school, I was shy. I didn't date, really. I had a few dates, but I couldn't dance, so I didn't go to dancers. And now, after I got in college, I learned how to do all that. Had a good time. Too good a time, really, but I finally got through. And it's, I don't know, I think anybody could do better, but I finally, in my thick head, realized that the best thing you can do is be a good listener, because there's a lot of information out there. For young people, the best advice I can have is be courteous. Teach them how to say yes sir, no sir, thank you. To be sure your brain's connected to your tongue. I'm terrible about saying something before I think. It's all about listening and thinking about what you're going to say and what it means. And the other thing is when you start a project, finish it. I'm bad about not doing that.